today we will have very exciting presentation. There will be actually 4 presentations, but all of them are the one entity. It's all about your visibility of your research results. So the first part will be about public engagement with research. A second will be about visibility of your research. And both of those presentations I will do. And then third one, which is maybe quite new for you, is about publishing your research data. Professor Mišić will go deeply in this matter. And on the end, maybe the most interesting presentation will be held by Professor Nikola Korunović, and he will speak about publishing in journals. And maybe this part is will be the most interesting for you. But nevertheless, let's start from the beginning, from public engagement with research. So the goals of this presentation or training or whatever you want is to help you to understand what is a public engagement with research, to find out why we need public engagement at all, and finally to learn how to achieve the goals of public engagement. So during the presentation, the whole presentation, please mute your microphones. Please also switch off your camera in order to make a smooth transfer of the data. And if you have any questions, please use chat option in the Zoom. Also, you can use it for answer in our exercises. The following presentation will have few parts. So the first, we will try to define what is the public engagement, why we need public engagement at all, and who can engage and for what purpose. And then we will discuss how we can engage public and shortly explain the key challenges and barriers. On the end, we will have a short exercise. You will try to develop a short plan of public engagement for your research. So let's first define what is public engagement. Of course, there are many definitions, but I choose 2 definitions which are, from my point of view, the best. The first one is definition of public engagement coming from National Coordinating Center for Public Engagement, which is located in Bristol in the United Kingdom. The definition says that public engagement describes the myriad of ways in which the activity and benefits of higher education and research can be shared with the public. Engagement is by definition two-way process. Remember this, it's two-way process. It's not communication in one way with the public, but also you should also hear what a public are telling you. So in this case, it's two-way process involving interaction and listening with the goal of generating mutual benefit. And this is very important. You cannot reach public engagement, you cannot reach in fully a public engagement if there are not mutual benefit. So this is first definition. Second one is similar, but the second is coming from Oxford, University of Oxford, also in United Kingdom. And it says that public engagement with research is a range of way of engaging members of public with the design, conduct, and dissemination of research. So you see that all part of the research project are here, starting from design, then conducting research, and then finally disseminated result of your research. And all of this, all with the goal of generating mutual benefit by enhancing the quality and socioeconomic impact of research. You probably mentioned that both definitions are similar, but this one is maybe more concrete. In order to understand what we get if we are using principles and practice of public engagement, I made this illustration and it pretty much reflects my experience with the research. So when I was young researchers, I get assignment for research. I did research, and then the reports of my results also of my research finished in the folder in my office, and also in the folder in the office of the research founder. So the recent years, we start to practice engagement with public in research. So behind me in research, many other stakeholders, but let's call them public, were included in the process of research, starting from the beginning, from planning of research, and also we were together in the process of implementing of the projects, and finally in the process of the dissemination of results. So what I learned is that this approach helped me to provide additional sources of information, knowledge, and expertise coming from public. Also, I get many new research ideas. I improve the quality and impact of my research, and I raise my profile as a researcher. And also, I saw that in this case, you can easily raise your employability because the public recognize you as a valuable researchers. And finally, during this, while doing public engagement, me personally, I developed many new skills. Later on, I will tell you a little bit more about that. So let's now talk about why we need public engagement there are three reasons why you should engage public. First is consulting, meaning a broad public audience on their opinion, ideas, and unresolved issues. Second is collaborating with public during the planning and implementation of the project, and even you can collaborate with them in the process of dissemination of project results or any other outcome of your project or your research. And finally, a third reason is informing non-research audience about our project ideas, about implementation of the project and project results in a way that they will understand. And this is a very important, this last part of this is very important. When you engage public, you have to keep in mind that they speak a different language. They sometimes do not understand scientific language. So you have to find a way to communicate with them in a way that they understand what you are talking to them. So those are the three reasons why we need a public engagement. Once again, consulting, collaborating, and informing. Let's see a little bit those reasons in more details. So how consulting can help us? First, we can get a fresh idea which can help us with creating a new research to recognize what are issues, problems of community as a whole, of public as a whole, and to find new topics of our research, or to, let's say, refine our aims of research. Second, consulting helps us learning to understand the problem from the public perspective, to hearing from a local community about the issue they want addressed. And then to setting the research questions. What are the aim of my research or aims? Then it will help you to respond to social need or social requests. And also very helpful is that consultation with the public can help you to check your assumption, which is also very important. Speaking about collaborating or collaboration with public, it is very well known from many cases that more diverse people can improve the quality of your research. Yes, there is some problem to include the wide public, but you will get many ideas which can improve the quality of your research. Then people can help you to collect data, data that you alone cannot connect. Imagine that you are doing some geospatial research, which need the data from many locations in your country or around the world. You cannot do it yourself, but with the help of public, with the volunteers from the public, you can do. Also, there is possibility to do research together. in such a big group of people. There are very smart people, and they sometimes they wish to collaborate, to do research together with you. So you will be in position to create a knowledge together with them, and also to apply this knowledge to solve practical problems. And finally, while doing such a collaboration, it will be possible for you to widening research horizon and to surface a new idea. Both of those last points will help you to formulate maybe a new research project. And finally, it is informing, and informing means that first you will inform people about your work in a different way. In this way, it will help you to increase impact of your research. And finally, last but not least, and not less important, maybe the importance of this last reason is the best is that while informing people, you will inspire young people to consider a career in research. So those are the reasons why we need public engagement. As I told you, while practicing public engagement, you will for sure develop a bunch of skills like negotiation skills, facilitation skills, risk management, which is sometimes very important in practicing public engagement. Then communication, your communication skills will be much better after a couple of years. Then recognizing different people and different viewpoints that they have. Also, you will develop in great extent your interpersonal skills. Without that, even you are good researchers, without interpersonal skills, your outreach, your let's say achievement will not be so high. And then you will learn many things about project management, including budgeting and fundraising. And finally, you will learn how to solve the problems in research. So this is those are side effects of practicing engagement, public engagement in research. So the question is, who can we engage and for what purpose? This is the first question you should think about. Why lose the time? Do you really need? For what purpose you need it? So first we must think about what is the public. The public is very broad there. Do you really need all groups in the public? It includes children, your friends, your family, primary school children, high school students, faculty, university students, adults, and also the elderly. Healthy and sick people, unemployed and unemployed, and so on. You can make differentiation in many ways. So do you really want to engage all those people? Or you need some specific group of the people. So you need to determine target group that you want to engage in your research. To do that, it is necessary to answer the very important question: why I need public engagement and for what purpose? Why? Because just of consulting, or consulting and collaborating, or just for informing them of my research results. So this is very important question. So once you know why and for what purpose you want to engage the public, it will be much easier to determine what kind of people you want to engage. What is your target group? And as an example, I will give you a couple of cases. If you are, let's say, doing some research in medical veterinary with the dogs, your target group may be probably dogs owner. Or if you are doing research in environment protection, so maybe you'd better to find to recognize some local or global society for environment protection, and then include active members from such a society. Or if you are in medical research with cardiovascular programs, you may need probably people ages from 50 to 60, because most of them have some cardiovascular problem. And so on. Maybe you need wine lovers, members of consumer association, members of some specific Facebook group, like Facebook group basketball, above all, if you are doing with sport medicine or training research and so on. Sometimes you will also need policymakers to include in your research. And the problem is how to include. What are the channels? What are possibilities to include, to engage public in your research? So I find a very good picture coming from University of Dublin, and the picture shows in one excellent way what are possibilities for engage people in those three type of collaboration. So for collaboration, you can include the so-called participative action in research. What does mean participative? The people are really participating in your research in different ways. They help you to do research work. Or maybe they are just partnership. or they help you in decision making. Also, they may be part of some committee, or they will help you to organize stakeholder dialogue, or they will be part of citizen science project. There are many very successful citizen science projects. Then, if you are want just to consult public, there are many possibilities, like including them in the panels, in the focus group, in advisory user community, or in some citizen jury will help you to get some decision, or to be part of opinion pools, or to help you in consultation, help you to make a better attitude toward your research, and to help you to organize surveys which are, let's say, important for you. And finally, if we speak about information, informing people or inspiring people, there is a many possibility, like exhibition, showcase, education program, science centers, the art in education, or public debate, and so on. And of course, you can, if you want to approach a really very wide public in the whole, you can use festivals, social media, podcasts, blogs, newspaper, library resource, magazine articles, newsletters, TV program, radio, webinars, and website. So those are the possibility how to engage people. What are barriers and challenges for public engagement? First of all, as always, is funding. You should sometimes you have to cover some expenses, and so you have to provide funding. Then your personal lack of skills for public engagement. So this is now is a moment to change this, because you are listening one very short training, but it will give you idea how to make these skills, your skills, better. Then the typical problem is wrong identification of required target audience. It depends on type of project, of what you are planning to do with the audience, with the public. Sometimes, if you collect data using public, you should think about unreliable data quality. This is especially critical for citizen science projects. Participants sometimes should have some skills in order to collect proper data. And finally, always is presented problems in communicating with the non-academic community, because they sometimes do not understand scientific language. So those are the key barriers. And now we will have a short exercise. So knowing all that I said, think about a question on the screen. What is your research about? Why I need public engagement? For what purpose I need public engagement? Which target group needs to be engaged? And how will I convince them to engage in my research? Let me see. You have 5 minutes for a very short answer, and put your answer in chat. This question will remain on the screen, so just short answer, starting from now. Andrian Harrow, please unmute.
Yes, Miroslav.
Yes, please, go on.
Okay, so regarding with this question, about my research is related to the marketing and the consumer behavior. So it's mostly about the halal marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So it specifically in the Islamic banking.
Okay.
Okay, and then why I need public engagement? It's because this part of the financial services, so it needs the customer to give the opinion or the recommendation based on their point of view that they already got from what the bank give the service to them.
Okay.
Okay, for what purpose I need public engagement? To know about what's the problem or what the should improve the services that still not satisfied for the customer.
Excellent, excellent. So which are our target groups?
Okay, the target group so far, I want to find out about the potential customer. So it means that right now they still didn't use these services for the Islamic bank, and then but mostly they already got the information or familiar with the product. So I try to focus for
maybe you should count on some consumer association. They are usually willing to improve products that they consume. So
I see. Yes, yes.
Can be very
yes,
so,
yes.
If you make a win-win situation with such a association, you will easily convince them to be engaged in your research. Very good answer from you. And we have time only maybe for one answer. I would like Aretha Campbell to join us and share their opinion. And the rest of you, please enter in the chat box your answers. Later on, you will get maybe my comments. So Aretha, please take, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm speaking a little low because I'm in the library. So I'm hoping that you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, well, I've gotten so far to answer, I've been able to answer 3 of the questions. My research deals with financial crimes, such as money laundering and terrorist financing and tax evasion within the Caribbean region. I need to engage in public engagement because it increases my visibility as a researcher in the field, given that I'm new to the field of research. I've been working in the banking and finance industry for the past 16 years. So I have industry experience, but in terms of research experience, I've just completed my PhD and I've just published my monograph. So for me, public engagement would allow me to become more visible in the area of research. It would also allow me to perhaps enhance my employment opportunities within the industry or within an academic arena. It would also assist me in gaining recognition and building a reputation within the field of my expertise. In addition to that, it would assist me in contributing to scientific literature in the field and gaining recognition for that contribution. With regard to my purpose of engaging in public engagement, I find that it would assist me in disseminating my research findings to my peers and also to non-public. I find that my research is very, well, public oriented. So the public would definitely be interested in my research finding in addition to my peers in my field of expertise. Also, it will enhance my ability to build skills and also my research knowledge, and perhaps expand my point of views with regard to different areas of the research. In addition to that, it would help me to expand my network. That's as far as I got with regards to the questions that you've asked.
Okay, thank you very much. It was excellent. We don't have any more time to discuss. Now is a coffee break, but please use coffee break. And as Monica, put your answers in the chat box. I hope you had enough time to take a coffee, and now it's time to pass to the second presentation, which is also very important and I hope useful for you. It's about increasing the visibility of the research. So the goals of this presentation will be to understand the importance of the visibility of research, why we need it. And I will present you methods to increase the visibility of research. So we will first define what is the visibility of research, why we need visibility of research, how to increase visibility of research, and once again we will speak about key challenges and barriers, and finally we will have short exercises. I hope that this time you will be more collaborative, because we get only one written comment, which is not good for you. Okay, let's start from the beginning. We will start actually this training by the question: what is the goal of your research work? You probably have some research idea. So what is the goal of this research? Think for 15 seconds and then write your short answer in the chat. Only one sentence, short sentence. What is the goal of your research work? Please do it now. 15 seconds only. Once again, Joanna was first to investigate a field that has not yet been well described. Excellent. Thank you very much, Joanna. So, because there are no more answers, I would conclude that you still don't have any research idea. Let me see, IPAN wrote to fill the linguistic research gap on my home country. Okay, thank you. Sandra wrote, finding out how the historical critical pedagogy was built in Curitiba. In 1999, I was in Curitiba, and it is an excellent city in Brazil, yes. In south of Brazil, it's capital of Paraná, and very nice people are living there. And the city is excellent, especially parks. Okay. We don't have much more time for this. Okay, let's go further with our presentation. So, what is the visibility of research? It is a little bit hard to give answer which will satisfy everybody, but we can say that visibility of research is a measure that shows the extent to which your research idea, research hypothesis, research plan, research methodology, collected and processed data, developed software, tools, materials, and so on, and finally research results are visible to the rest of the world. So this is the key part. So in which extent your research outcome are visible to the rest of the world. Okay, so not only for your lab, but for the rest of the world. Why we need visibility of research? There are many reasons. First, you should know that your scientific work only makes sense if it is visible to your institution, your science community, let's say electrical engineers, and finally to the society as a whole. By making your research visible and accessible, which is also important, it can be visible but not accessible, you increase chances of your research being noticed and used and having impact, and thus increasing your own reputation and chances of success in your academic and research work. Only if your research work is recognized as valuable, you will meet your personal goal. This is why I first ask you, what is the goal of your research? You have to have it in mind. And once you have a goal, you will find out that you need a visibility of your research. how we can increase the visibility of our research. There are many. A first one, it is a rule. A first one is to distinguish yourself, either using ORCID ID, either Scopus Author ID, and Web of Science Researcher ID, or what I suggest, all of three, all of them. So then publish your research result in index journal, book, and conference paper. And when you are doing this, make sure that those media are open, that the journal, that you have open access journal. More on these topics, you will see in very good presentation of Professor Nikola Koronovic. It's a presentation on publishing research results. But it is just one thing. Then you should not publish only your result, but publish your project, the whole project, the idea of the project, also research result, presentation, and videos on the portals of professional networks. And we will speak much more on these topics later on. Then more and more, this is not enough to publish just your papers, but also publish your research data, the data that you either collect, either produce. So the publish your research data in the open access data repositories, and you will find out why it is important and how to do it is another excellent presentation, which will follow this one. It's presentation on publishing research data, and Professor Dragan Mišić will explain you more on this topic during the presentation. So, also, you can publish and update regularly your CV, not only on one place, maybe on many places, in order to raise chances to somebody to see your CV. Also, you can produce your website or blog. You should be active in professional social network. You should use social network to direct the research community and the general public toward your research outcomes. And finally, you can also present your research result at the conferences, scientific conferences, scientific exhibition, at TED Talks, and on radio or in TV shows. Of course, it is not easy to get a time on radio or in TV show. It is not easy to organize TED Talks, but there are plenty of communication channels which are free, and you can easily access them and to publish your research outcomes. I mentioned that you should distinguish yourself. Why it is important to distinguish yourself? Because it's very often that there are many persons with the same name and family name. Also, sometimes you change institution, and then you change affiliation too. So maybe the people cannot connect your previous research with the current one, and so on. So you have to find a persistent way to identify yourself and your work, research outcome. So one of proven method is to use ORCID ID. ORCID ID is persistent digital identifier that you own and you control, and that distinguishes you from every other researcher. You can connect your ID with your professional information, affiliation, grants, publication, peer review that you did, and so on. Most of the leading journals will ask you for ORCID ID, and it will help you that your paper will be associated with you always, not only in one place, but on all scientific platforms. If you still don't have your ORCID ID, please use website www.orcid.org and register yourself, and it is easy, it is free, and you will get your ORCID ID and use it when you publish everything everywhere. Our second possibility is to have researchers' ID used in Clarivate Analytics Web of Science. It is Web of Science is the biggest platform for citation search and analytical information platform. And finally, another similar platform like Clarivate Analytics Web of Science is Elsevier Scopus platform. The functionality of both platforms is more or less the same. And also, if you register on Scopus, you will get your author ID. So those are three IDs that can help you to distinguish yourself. My recommendation to use all of them. So as an example, I will show you my case. So I have my ORCID ID. And also, when I'm, let's say, logged in on Scopus, I can see my Scopus author ID in line with the ORCID ID. So you see that even Scopus, which has its own research ID, are using ORCID ID for identification of researchers. Also, on Web of Science, I have researcher's ID. This is researcher's ID, but it is because Web of Science like to be unique. They do not easily recognize ORCID ID, even they will present your ORCID ID. So this is about how to distinguish yourself. Now let's see how to increase your research visibility. There are many ways. You can visit exhibition, as I told you. You can offer at TED Talks. You can go to the schools and speak with the children or whatever, but it will take time, resources, and sometimes it is costly. So let's see if there are other ways to increase your research visibility free of charge and with less effort. So because we are living in digital era, let's see what are media channels used for news, but also if you are published something, it is also kind of news, is scientific news. So at the moment in 2021, those results are from 2021. It was just a month ago. So 82% of world population are using some kind of online media. 64% are using TV. 56% are using social media. And only 24% use print media. Even less will be a figure about what percentage of population are use scientific printed media. It will be less than 1%. So if you want to raise visibility of your research, of course, you should think about print media because it is standard in the science. But if you want to increase visibility, you should also think about the rest of possibility. Maybe you are not clear what is the difference between online media and social media. Later on, we will speak much more about that. But for now, let's say social media are Facebook or YouTube or ResearchGate or academia.edu. But online media includes also your personal website, your blog, and something like this. So we don't have money for TV, and they are not happy to accept researchers. It is not interesting for wide public. So what we can do, we can use online media and social media. Beside our printed papers in the scientific journal. So, because Professor Nikola Koronovic will speak much more about print media, actually journals, I will concentrate my presentation to online media. But maybe you are not clear what are we talking about, because there are social media, social networking service, personal network, and professional network. If in order to present a difference between social media and social networking service, I made this picture. So there is a big overlap of these two possibilities, a big overlap. But social media are more for a personal network, while social networking service are more for professional network. Even let's say social networking service can be used also for personal networking. Okay. Later on, I will give a definition for each of those communication channel. So let's start from the social media. Social media are interactive technology that facilitate the creation and sharing of information, ideas, form of expression through virtual communities and networks. The common features of all social media is that are interactive, Web 2.0 internet-based application, which enable user to create content and post the content. This is a main idea. So the user-generated content, such as text posts or comments, digital photos or video, and data generated through all online interaction can be are presented in the social media. Also, users create service-specific profiles for the website or application that are designed and maintained by the social media organization. Social media helps the development of online social network by connecting the user profile with those of other individuals or groups. It's typically that social media do not produce any content. They are using content coming from user. So they get it for a free, and of course they earn by the advertisements published on their sites. Okay, so those are the social media. But let's see the whole picture. Let's see the social media and network, the social media and social networking service platform space as a whole. So in this picture, you will see two axes, a horizontal axis starting from zero. Zero is in the center of the picture when those two axes are crossed. So it starts from zero going to private networking, and then other side is from zero and going to professional networking. So those side of the picture is more for professionals, and those side of the picture is more for private use. Also, if we are looking at the content, we can see that some of media, some of platform are with poor content, only sometimes only text, sometimes with a picture, and in the best case, sometimes with text, pictures, video, tables, data, and so on. So now here we have content poor social media, and here we have a content rich social media. Let's say YouTube is more for private networking. He is content rich. You can present their video, photos, music, or something like this. But for example, you can, it is not easy to publish presentation, but if you make a movie of presentation, you can publish it even on YouTube. Even YouTube is very often used for professional reason. He is more for a private use, but more and more institutions are using YouTube for a different professional reason. So you can see here, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they are more for private use. It doesn't mean that you cannot use it for professional reason. Also, and they are content rich. But down you have WhatsApp, Messenger, QQ, which are for private use, more for private use, and with poor content. What we are interested in is professional networking, and I will explain you later more on this. And you can see here Mendeley, Academia.edu, ResearchGate, professional networking, LinkedIn, Kudos, and scientists. Okay. And if you want to know what of these social media or networking service platform offer you best visibility, don't look only on the figure, but think about if your target group which is interesting for you to present them your research outcome, is your target group is using those social or network service platform or social media. So here is a statistic of social media, and as you might know, the Facebook is on the top. Then they have 2.9 billion of users.
Here, Miroslav, just sorry for interruption,
Yes.
just to remind you that we are already 2 minutes late for the break.
Oh, really? No.
We have a coffee break between 11:30 and 12.
But coffee break was between first and second presentation.
Okay, so
Okay, I have 50 minutes. We can shift.
okay, but continue, and another 15 you'll give them a bit later. Yeah.
Okay, I will finish for 50 minutes because they had a coffee break between first and second. Okay, let's go. Also, you can see the rest of the social media, and you know, most of them are new, like TikTok, but it's only 2 or 3 years old social media, and now they have 1 billion of the users, monthly users. Okay, and on this picture you can see the historical development of social media, and it will be interesting to follow what will happen in the future. But you can see trend is rising. All social media have very high trend. Okay, we already defined what are social media. Let's now define what are social networking services. So social networking services, sometimes called a social networking site, is an online platform which people use to build a social network or social relationship with other people who share similar personal or career content, interest, activities, background, and real life connection. So it is interesting for us because part of social network are personal network, which is a set of human contacts known to an individual with whom that individual would expect to interact at intervals to support a given set of activity. Typical personal network is Facebook. Personal network is a group of caring, dedicated people who are committed to maintain a relationship with a person in order to support a given set of activities. Sometimes it is just entertainment. So this is the personal network. And finally, we came to the professional network service. A professional network service is a type of social network service that is focused solely on interaction and the relationship of a business nature. It's keyword, a business nature of relation, rather than including a personal, non-business interaction. A professional network service is used by business individuals to establish and maintain professional contacts and a way to either find work or get ahead in their own careers, as well as gain resources and opportunities for networking. And this is the most interest for us. So I made a list of important professional network services for researchers. And so you can see here ResearchGate, Academia Edu, Mendeley, Scientist, Kudos, LinkedIn, Biomed Experts, but also very useful are social network like Twitter, Meetup, Xing, or Opportunity. I will now present you just important professional network which can really dramatically increase visibility of your research. So first is ResearchGate. ResearchGate is the largest research network. It is in Europe. It is a European commercial social networking site for scientific and researchers to share a paper, answer questions, and find collaborators. And most of European researchers are using ResearchGate. At the moment, the last published figure is more than 20 million of researchers. It means almost all. But also, ResearchGate is with worldwide use. The researchers from 193 countries are using ResearchGate. Speaking about the scientific field, 15% of users are coming from medicine, 14 from biology, 14 from engineering, 7 from chemistry, 6 from computer science, 4 from physics, and all others are 50%. But what is very important for you is that 89% also of the user have a postgraduate qualification. You can publish your project idea, your project results, or even presentation on ResearchGate, and this part is free. The visibility of your research is great. People interested in your field of research will easily find you, and they can comment on your research outcome. They sometimes will ask you for a copy of your paper if it is with published in non-open science journal, or they will propose you collaboration, or just follow you on the network. So you can see, in my case, that that from what were published from my side in ResearchGate, 144,000 or 45,000 people saw my research. Without ResearchGate, it would be not possible. Thanks to them, I have 829 citations, and 1,148 persons express their interest in my research. So now, if I want to find somebody for a new project, I can list those that shows interest for my research. Second, a similar site is academia.edu, is American-based for-profit social networking website for academics. They have a similar services like ResearchGate. Both of them, ResearchGate and Academia, offer very wide number of services free of charge, but some of services are paid. But for now, you will not need this. Academia has a little bit more subscribers. It's 71 million, but it is historical figure, because most of them now are not using Academia, but what ResearchGate published is only number of active users. So this figure of 20+ million is a real one, while this one is cumulative figure. So on Academia, as in ResearchGate, you can make your own profile, you can publish data, you also have similar functionality. How you can see how many followers you have, how many people you are following, what number of co-authors you have, how many total views of the paper, your published paper were on Academia. And you can see here difference. I have only 18,000 views on Academia, but more than 100,000 on ResearchGate. This is why I prefer ResearchGate. Also, you will get different offer from community like this one to be to be invited to discuss a paper of somebody, because academia recognized that your research field are overlapping with somebody else. Mendeley is much more professional. Mendeley is a company which provides other services. It provides products and services for academic research in the sense that they offer its reference manager, which is used to manage and share research paper and generate bibliographic for scholarly articles. It is from they are from Netherlands, founded in 2008 in United Kingdom, but in 2030 Elsevier, which is one of the biggest publishing company, just bought them. They have for now 2.5 million of users. There are many new web platforms which are very useful for sharing scientific content, and this one is specialized for sharing very content rich, and the very interesting that the students from University of Durham made this platform in order to present their own student works, and now it is very widely accepted by young scientists. A researcher can connect with others, communicate their research, and get recognition for their work. Also, they have showcased research in various formats such as blog, podcast, videos, to engage people with the research work. So if you want to have everything on one place, to have your blog, your web page, please use Scientist. You have here down web link. And another platform which is very, very useful is Kudos. It helps researchers and also their institution and the founders, science founders, to increase the visibility and the impact of their publication. You can showcase your expertise and increase readership of your research. You can create a digital portfolio of your research by mixing photos and text. You can link together your publication, data belonging to something that was published in publication, and also presentations, which is, let's say, useful for conferences. You can showcase your research to a broad global audience, and you can track a readership, social media coverage, and citation or growth. The user interface is very intuitive, so no technical knowledge is needed at all. When you are when you sign in, you will create your profile, and you will put here your ORCID ID. You can put your ResearchGate ID or your ResearchGate homepage, also Academia Edu homepage, and so on. And Kudos is collecting information from everywhere, from Facebook, from YouTube, from LinkedIn, from Twitter, and using all data from all social platforms, make some altmetrics of your research out. And more and more people are using Kudos. So, having said that, let me give you some general recommendation. So, create a profile, summarize your research, upload your publication so others can find them, find and follow other researchers so you can receive automatic updates of their new publication, which are interested for you. Find and read others' publication, make a review of your colleagues' scientific paper, see platform-specific metric, so-called altmetric, that indicate the readership and reach you have on those sites. And last slide is, I would like you to make your visibility strategy. It means that you should think, what is the purpose of your research? And it will help you to identify whom you need to communicate your research to whom do you want to present your research and result, how they can access information about your research, and it will help you to decide where to publish your accomplishment, and are your achievement discoverable. It will help you to promote and disseminate your accomplishment. And finally, think about if your audience can understand your accomplishment. Do you use a right language? So this is all from my side because we are run out of time. I will skip short exercise, but you have it in presentation, you will get it, and you should think about. Thank you very much for your attention. Is there any question?
Miroslav, maybe during the break they can
Yes.
ask these questions
Yes.
in the chat, and you'll
Yes.
be able to answer after that.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. It was nice to be with you. Thank you.
Okay, we are back.
Shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay. I will share my screen. Just a moment. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay. Just. Okay. Hello again. My name is Dragan Mišić, and I will talk with you about publishing research data. I apologize in advance for my coughing because I still have COVID-19. Okay. What are the goals of this presentation? The first one is to understand why it is necessary to publish data, and then to learn how and where to publish data, and at the end to learn how to cite data. This is the content of a presentation. As you can see, we will talk about what is open research data, what are the benefits of opening data, what metadata is. We will talk a little about FAIR guiding principles, about data management plan, then where and how to publish our data, and at the end, how to cite data. At the end, we will have a very short exercising about searching for open data. Okay, let's start. Before we start talking about data publishing, let us see what open data is. The data is very often most valuable output from one research project. So it is logical that if data was used in the research, then if we want this research to be repeated and used in another way, then the data must be available. What the data is called open. These are data that can be freely accessed, reused, mixed, and further distributed, all for the purpose of academic research. But it is not restricted only to the research. The data also must be accessible and available. That means that it can be downloaded as a whole and at a reasonable price or for free, of course, using the internet. Also, data must be in a suitable form that can be easily further modified. In addition, the reuse of this data, as well as the mixing with other data, must be allowed. And finally, there is a principle of universal participation. That means that everyone must be allowed to use the data without any discrimination. One example of discrimination is the requirement that the use of the data should be non-commercial and similar. Ideally, there are no restrictions on the use of this data and its further distribution. What the author can ask for when publish his or her data is to mention who the author is and that this and other data created on the basis of them are still shared. There are many benefits for different stakeholders from opening the data. There are benefits for researchers, for funders, for general public, for non-government organization, and of course for national governments. Let's see in more detail what are benefits for the researchers. Sharing data can help the scientific community by allowing the replication of experiments. If you publish your data, then others can review your data, can review your method and analysis in detail. And it possibly can lead to rising of new lines of inquiry. This also can lead to new collaboration, and it will boost your reputation within the community. Also, open data can increase the visibility of the research and the number of citation counts. For example, there is some evidence that publishing research articles for open access rather than behind a paywall increase citations. There are studies that show that papers in top economics and political science journals with public data and public code are cited between 30 and 45% more often than papers without public data and code. Also, by publishing your data in a journal or a data repository, you can provide a means for others to properly cite your data and give you the credit which you deserve. And finally, let me mention that one of the requirements for all projects financed with public money in the European Union is to make their publications available in open access and make their data as open as possible and as closed as necessary. This is the principle for in open in European projects. Of course, there are some concerns about opening data. Some authors cite confidentiality issues as the primary reason for their inability to publish data. This is especially true for studies that deal with sensitive information. The second most cited reason is intellectual property concerns. With these concerns in mind, authors may perceive that the benefits of the data publication do not outweigh its costs and risk. For example, authors may worry that sharing data could result in losing full control of the data, or that other researchers will use the data for similar research before the original author's paper is published. Or maybe that outside parties will dig for errors in their data. Also, private data providers, especially profit companies, do not want to publish their data because they are worried about competition. All these risks are valid, but they can be minimized by managing permission settings for reuse when there are concerns about malicious users, and by avoiding misinterpretation, by showing transparency in the research method which is used. Okay. When we publish our data, we should publish data itself, but also metadata. What is metadata? It is in essence structured information that makes it easier to retrieve, use, or manage an information resource. In practice, it means that metadata describes a data set and its structure and helps user discover it. Metadata is critical to helping visitors to find and use your published data. Good metadata reduces the need for visitors to seek personal assistance, help prevent misinterpretation of data, etc. Information usually includes some basic elements such as title, who published data set, when it was published, how often it is updated, and what license is associated with the data set, and so on. All these data are classed as descriptive metadata, which is opposite to structural metadata. Structural metadata describes, for example, information of page layout or something like that. Metadata can be divided into two types. The first one is metadata that provides an overview of the data. This kind of metadata helps people to find the data through the internet searches. And the other type is metadata that provide details about specific parts of your data. This kind of metadata enables people to use your data effectively by helping them to understand your data. Also, we can talk about dataset metadata and column metadata. Without dataset metadata, a catalog of published data could not exist. So, what is metadata which should be included in your dataset metadata? It is title, description, category, keywords, modification date, contact information, license, and so on. Also, if the most popular format for publishing data is spreadsheet or tabular format, and in it we have many columns, and because of that we should have column metadata. Column metadata is often limited or entirely left out, but it is very helpful for data consumers. So column metadata provide important details about the data which column contains, and at least should be here name of column, description of column, data type, and indication whether it is required field or not. And here is one example of dataset metadata, and on the next slide of column metadata. This is for dataset from OpenClick project. You can see here that authors of it are me, Mišo Dragan, and Professor Trajanović. Here we have date of publication, title, part of description because it is pretty long, keywords, license, and contact information. Also, because our data set is comma-separated value format, we gave column metadata. For each column, we have its name, short description, data type, and indication is if it is required. Okay. When we publishing data, that data should be published according fair data principles. What are these principles? In 2014, was developed a set of basic principles which should be respected if we want to enable reusing of our data. these principles are called FAIR principles because of first letters, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. It is a set of guidelines and best practice which should ensure that digital object can be found, that it can be accessed, that it can be combined with other data, and that it can be used again. The first principle is the data should be findable. Data is findable if it can be easily found, either by computer or by map. For this to be possible, there must be metadata, but also unique data identifier. Both of them facilitates automatic search. Data also must be accessible, which means that once it is found, it must be possible to download it in a standard way, using standard protocols, such as HTTP or FTP or SMTP or something like that, with possible authentication and authorization. Even after data is removed, metadata should continue to exist. Data also should be interoperable. This principle refers to the requirement that data can be combined with other data. This means that data should be in a format that is standardized and that can be interpreted using known tools. This applies both to metadata and data. And finally, data should be reusable. In order for reuse to be possible, the metadata and data themselves must be well described so that they can be replaced or combined. Here, I would like to mention that FAIR principles emphasize the possibility of finding data using automated search engines, meaning machines. FAIR principles are guidelines, not standards. They describe what needs to be done, and this can be achieved through different standards. This is these principles in more details, sub-principles to say. For example, to be findable, metadata and data should have assigned globally unique and persistent identifier, should be described with rich metadata, and so on. To be accessible, metadata should be retrievable and data should be retrievable using standardized communication protocol. To be interoperable, metadata and data should use a format which is accepted in your community. And to be reusable, metadata and data should be richly described. And one final note about FAIR data and open data is that that FAIR principles and openness of the data should not be confused. Open data can be accessed and used by anyone without any licenses, without any copyrights, without any patents. What may be required of the user is to mention the author in appropriate name. On the other hand, FAIR data, the private data could be FAIR, and open data also could be FAIR. And it is not the same thing. Okay, When we defined a research project, it is necessary especially for European project, it is necessary to submit data management plan. Data management plan is a plan how will data be managed. It is a written document that describes the data you expect to collect or generate over the life of a project. And it should contain statements about how you plan to manage this data, how this data will be described, how will be analyzed, how will be stored. Also, there should be a description of the mechanism that will be used for data sharing and storage after the project is complete. Data management plans are often submitted as a part of a grant application, but it is not mandatory. They can be useful whenever researchers are creating their data. And these three links on bottom part of this slide leads you to sites with more explanations about data management plan. By the way, CISSDE is a consortium of European social science data archives. The last link is maybe most important. This is titled Horizon Europe Data Management Plan Template. And on this page or pages, template which is used and recommended in the Horizon Europe projects is described in more details. Here is a graphical representation of the structure of that data management plan, which is recommended from called Horizon Europe. As you can see, there is 7 sections, 7 parts: data summary, fair data, other research outputs, allocation of resources, data security, ethics, and other. In each of these sections, there is defined a set of questions to be which should be answered. The data management plan is created by answering to these questions. Until now, I think we agreed that data should be open and published. The question is how to publish our data. There are several ways. The first one is as supplemental material with a research article hosted by the publisher of the article. The advantages of this are the data are in accordance with the requirements of the journal, and that they easily fit into the work itself. Of course, there are some disadvantages, and they are that it can cost money, that the data can be subject of copyright, that it can be possible and be available only if it is paid, and similar. The second one is to publish data on your website, where from where the data can be downloaded. For example, OpenQuick project use this approach. What is advantages? What are advantages? The data are easily accessible and can be found and downloaded. Main problem is with the cost of maintaining the site. The third option is placing your data is in a repository intended specifically for data storage. One of such repositories is Zenodo. Advantages are that already they already have such capabilities that data is available to a larger number of users, that these repositories can accept data of different types and so on. And disadvantages are that the rules may not completely match your rules, and that editor has no control over the posted data and similar things. And the fourth option is publishing a paper on data in a specific journal, data journal, which is intended only for that. So it was in general. If you have dilemma how to choose your data right repository, here are some recommendations. OpenAIRE is a European initiative that should promote the development of open science. And according to their recommendation, we have this. First, it should be considered placing data in specialized archive for a specific area, for your domain. For example, there are archives for biological
Dragane, I lost you.
Are you sure?
Now, yes, I can hear you.
I got a message, my internet connection is unstable. I'm very
Yeah,
sorry.
this is normal in these times, but yeah,
I'm
I
very
just
sorry
wanted
for
to
that.
notify you. Don't worry.
Okay. If
Just
you-
repeat your last 2 points.
Okay. Did you see here this my explanation of this slide where to publish data? Yes. Yes or no? Hello.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. Okay. You can use your institutional repository if it is possible. You can find data repository, of course, cost-free, and some of such are Dataverse, Dryad, Figshare, Zenodo, or something like that. We will see the list later. Or you can search for some other data repositories in RE3 data register. Here you can filter your search and find repositories according access categories, that data licenses, and so on and so on. The first recommendation from the previous slide is to consider submitting your data to discipline-specific and community recognized repositories when it is possible, of course. But how to find such kind of repository? You can start with services listed here. The first one is a list of approved repositories that comes from Open Research Europe, or you can look at a list of data repositories from the University of Chicago Library, or from Journal of Scientific Data, or of course you can search RE3 data registry, or you can use repository finder, which is one of services offered by DataCite, which we talk about it a little later. Or you can list data repositories in open access directory, which is a site maintained by Simmons University from Boston. If you can't find a discipline-specific repository, you can use some of these general-purpose repository. For example, Harvard Dataverse is a free data repository open to all researchers from any discipline. Dryad is open source platform for publishing research data. Figshare is also free open access data repository, and users here can upload files of any type. Mendeley Data is a free repository specialized for research data, and here you can find more than 20 million of data sets. Then Open Science Framework is free and open source project management tool that support researchers through the project life cycle. Vivli here is listed also is independent non-profit organization that has developed a global data sharing and analytics platform. Then Zenodo is a general purpose repository developed under the European Open Air program and operated by CERN, and so on. And the last link of this page leads to a website where you can find comparative characteristics of these and maybe some other repositories, and it can help you to choose the right repository. Now I will give you some practical steps to publish your research data. First, you should check if it is allowed to publish your data, because your data could be personal data, confidential data, data which should be used commercially, and so on. After that, you should choose which data should be published. Here you have several options. For example, you can publish only data that is needed to validate your results, or you can publish everything that is needed to replicate your study, and so on. Also, if there is some standards used in your discipline, you should follow it before you begin, because of that it is recommended that you consult fairsharing.org site for details on data standards which are specific for your topic. Depending on your field of study, there may be already defined standards for which can help you to structure, format, and annotate your data. This slide shows some tips related to structuring spreadsheet data, because the most of our data are in this format. For example, what should we do? Give each column a descriptive heading, use a single header row, and so on. And what we should do not do? For example, embed charts, use color coding, and so on. Spreadsheets should be deposited in comma-separated CSV format. After that, the next step is to upload your data to a repository. And when choose your repository, you should ask yourself this question: does the repository provide a DOI or some other identifier? Is a repository managed by a company, society, institution, or government? Then from which repository would your potential user best find your data set, and then what is support for metadata and so on. If you don't have a discipline repository, and if you use the Retrieve Data portal for your search, it is recommended that to add a filter certificate and look for the red icon in the results. It means you should choose certified repository. And the last link leads to a list of repositories recommended by Open Research Europe, which is one open access publishing platform for researchers from Horizon 2020 projects. The next step is to add the data availability statement to your article, and all articles must include these statements, even if there is no data associated with this article. And of course, at the end, you should and must link your data set and your article. The next topic is data citation. I think it is the last one. Why we need to cite data? There are benefits for both data producers and data users, but also for community and whole community. For example, provides proper attribution and credits, create a bibliographic trail because connects publication papers and data which support it, and so on. The data users, of course, it is easier to find the data sets which are cited. It supports persistence of data sets and so on. In order for data to be cited, it needs to be stored permanently. And it also means that it should have a persistent identifier assigned. And how to get this identifier? For this purpose, data citation services are used. These services help researchers find, identify, and cite research data. The process of using these services usually involves creating and assigning a digital object identifier number, as well as defining metadata. One of data citations organization is DataCite, which deals with creation and allocation of DOI and accompanying metadata. DataCite has its members who are usually data centers and who use their services to obtain DOI numbers for their data sets. DataCite also can be used to find data sets and offer other services such as finding repository, I mentioned before, repository finder and similar. And how to cite your data? There are many different style guides and formats, but here I show you DataCite format, which is creator, publication year, title, version from publisher, resource type, and identifier. Some of these are optional. And this is on the last item is an example citing data set according DataCite format. Okay, just a moment. I'm not finished yet. Now we will have a very short exercise, but before that, show here the list of links which can be used for searching data sets. We will show you how to use Google dataset search, but also you can use DataCite search, World Bank Open Data, etc. DataCite is very powerful, but it is very slow, and because of that, I didn't use here it. Now I should should share other screen. Just a moment to find them. Publishing. I can see. No. Maybe I should stop sharing and stop share and share again. Can you see this? This is data search. So the it is data search .google.com. So Google has a specific data search intended only for searching data. For example, this service started in January of 2020, 2 years ago. COVID-19 is most popular term, I think, now, and this is this is what you get. On the left side, you have a list of data sets which are found, and on the right side you can see details about data set. Also, here you have buttons which leads you to original source of data sets. Here there are some filters which you can use in narrowing your search. For example, you can filter by past month data sets placed past month, past year, past 3 years, or you can filter them based on their format. For example, image format. Now are all only image data sets are shown. You can filter based on topics. There is not many topics. Based on usage rights, if whether commercial use is allowed or not, and so on. As you can see, this is a very limited set of filters, and it is main shortcoming of this, and also one shortcoming is that Google search data search can find only data which are on the web pages which include specific metadata which Google search engine looks. So, but this is a very, as you can see, it is a very, very fast service compared to data site. It is many, many times faster. So it is okay. This is it from me. Do you have any questions? No? I think this is follows the break, and Nicola will continue.
I hope you hear me and we can start now.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Nikola Kurunovic, and I'm going to talk to you about publishing research results. This presentation, in fact, is intended for a longer training, maybe an hour and a half or two. So I had the dilemma either to cut some slides out or to tell you just basic things and leave the presentation as it is. So I left it as it is. Maybe you'll forgive me if I say only the basic things, but I think that the presentation will serve you very well later, so you can read it and have some guidelines for many important things for research career. So the goals of today's workshop are to, firstly, to discuss motivation for publishing research results, then to see what are the various ways of scientific publishing, and finally, and most importantly, to review various approaches to a scientific journal selection, because it may be very hard to select an appropriate journal. So the topics are, first, why to publish results, what are the types of articles and access, what are preprints, and how to select the journal, and finally we will have a short exercise. So first, what are basically and generally motivation, different reasons for a researcher to publish results. We have some 5 of them as usual ones, and I will start with the first. So the first may be for you to add to the body of knowledge, and body of knowledge is a general knowledge in some area of science, and by having your research, you enhance that information, and you can practically be involved in getting some new theories, resolving some open issues, etc. And that should be important for every serious science. Then, very often, people just want to be recognized as experts in scientific field. And if you publish a lot of research, and a lot of good research, not any research, then you gain some credibility, you can become a recognized expert, and based on that, you can be engaged in projects as a speaker on various conferences, consultant, and so on. But be aware that you have to conduct this research in the right journals following the right methodology. We talk about this in other course that we have. I see some of you have listened to this. This is Open Science Training, and we talk about these methods in this circle. The third reason, very often reason, is just career advancement, because usually for every researcher, there should be some publications in some prestigious journal, and that's something prerequisite for career advancement. And you know it very well, I think. So that's one of the reasons. Also, there is something called science-based policy making. Many very well developed countries are such because they use science in making policies. And also, any country may use rather science rather than some copying of international laws to have some policy, local policy. For example, now an actual example would be the vaccination policy based on scientific findings. But in such policy making, it's very important also to have some follow-up studies. And finally, as many of you may know, it's also very important for a researcher to get inner satisfaction, because you work a lot, you work nights, and it's important to you to see the results and reap the fruits of your hard labor. We also may recognize some other benefits, like getting feedback, which is very important, from other researchers, or reach wide international audience, for example. As for types of publications, there are many. Most important ones are journal articles, but there are also books, monographs, chapters in monographs, papers in conference proceedings, etc. We will talk in detail a little bit later. I will tell about 6 common types of journal articles. The most important one is original research article. It's the main tool for researchers for full reporting of research results. It has some very well-known structure, depending also on journal like this, hypothesis, background study methods, etc. And also there are review articles, which give some comprehensive overview of some research topic. It's better suited for experienced researchers because it is not something that a novice should do, but somebody who knows the field very well. And also people use such articles very much, cite it very much, and it's a good starting point to read when starting some research. Also, less commonly, but there are some other types like short reports, for example, because if editors like some reports that they find it stimulating for other researchers, they may just put it in some journal. Also, we have methodologies. Those are the papers that are used to introduce a new experimental method, new procedure, or test or something like that. So, especially in medicine, we also have 2 other types of articles. First are case studies, and the second are clinical trials. Case studies concentrate on specific interesting cases that are in some way different maybe than other, bring something new. And clinical trials are well-organized controlled studies, where you have large patient groups and some statistical analysis, and you come to some conclusions. So further, we have many more types of articles. For example, book reviews. We don't have time to consider everything in detail, but I will just tell you book reviews, commentaries and letters to editors, a paper in conference proceeding. Then in some areas, only posters and slides are possible to be published. For open science that my colleagues mentioned, it's very important, for example, this type of registered report. This is a 2-stage article. First, you just publish a study protocol, and then after it's reviewed, after you conclude research, then you publish the second part with the research itself. And also something related to what my colleagues Misha said, we have articles called data notes, articles on data sets, and also software tool articles. And generally, to all those kinds of articles, there are 2 main types of access. The standard one, known for many years, is called paywall. Now it's also called closed access as opposite to open access. And the second one is open access. So closed access or paywall means that you have to pay a subscription for some journal. Usually institution is that who pays. And then you can download the articles. And open access means that anyone, not only researchers, but anyone can access the article totally free of charge with no technical obstacles, no passwords, no login, no nothing. And these closed and open access are closely connected with copyright issues. So when you are author of some creative work, you create something, you automatically, your work is copyrighted under all right reserved term. So you are the one who decides if anybody else can use your creative work. But the problem with paywall is that many journals require from you to transfer full copyright to them. So even if you want to reuse your work later, you have to ask this journal to allow you to use your work, which is absurd in some way. Only some granted issues like using articles for teaching, for sharing with colleagues, or you will see green open access, it's very important, are allowed. as such. Those are granted use. On the contrary, there is now emerging open licensing that is very much used in open science. So you are the one who specifies this open license, and then it's not all rights, but some rights reserved. And you are the one who chooses in the start, in the beginning, when you choose the license, what anybody else can do with your work. And most often we choose something like of Creative Commons licenses, and the less restrictive license practically gives all rights granted. You don't require anything from anybody. You can do what or she what he wants, but very commonly we use this attribute the authors. So anybody can remix, transform, and do anything, but just has to mention you that you are the author of the original work. Let's speak about open access. That is now very important. The full open access practically is called gold open access, when publication is made immediately available at publisher websites. But usually the problem is that for good journals, you have to pay, or your institution has to pay if you want to have your article in open access. We will also discuss this a little bit later. And a very important option that not anyone is aware of, that even if you publish in a journal, very often you can publish yourself this very article, but not in the final form, in the final PDF, but something that's a stage before, either preprint or postprint. So difference between preprints and postprints is that postprints are peer-reviewed and preprints are not. And there is usually some embargo period, usually 12 to 24 months. In this period, you still cannot publish yourself this because the publisher expects to earn some money in this period, of course. And there is something that is also very often used now. It's called hybrid open access. That is, you publish in a paywall journal, but the paywall journal has option. If you pay extra, then your article can be open access. The problem is obviously that the institution often has to pay twice, once for the subscription, and then it is for your article to be available open access. But now it's okay because many projects have a budget, especially with European Union, budget for open access publishing. Then there is something called Platinum Open Access, where you have really open access, but you don't have to pay anything because that publisher usually has some other sources of funding, like volunteer work, donation, etc. And there is also something called Bronze Open Access. At the first glance, it looks like gold, but the license is problematic. It's not clearly identifiable, so you cannot reuse really this paper. So avoid this Bronze Open Access. And how to know if the journal is really open access? It's very easy. You just go to this directory of open access journals. It lists all the journals that are really open access, that have open access and open licenses, as they should. And then if you publish there, it should be okay. So also you should be aware that, for example, in Horizon Europe and other European projects, you are even obliged to have open access articles. So if you're thinking open access or not, sometimes there's no special thinking because you have to do it now. We mentioned preprints. Preprints are used more and more now in all science branches. And the idea is to have your work, your paper, as you write it, put on some repository, on some special preprint server, where anybody can read it prior to peer reviewing, prior to you sending it to any journal, for example. And that's the idea for you to share your ideas very early with other researchers. Even on some repositories, some preprint servers, the other can do something like called open peer review. So they can comment on your article and then you can answer and also have new version of your article and something like that. So that's one of it. Very important question that we also talked in detail in our other training on open science is how to determine self-archiving policy of a journal. In other words, how is it possible for me to publish in green open access? Because many people fear and they are not aware that they can not publish, for example, the final version, but they must publish some other versions like preprints or postprints. And if you want to know all the options for a journal, you go to this ShareParometer. It's a fantastic site. It practically gives you many pathways. It guides you for specific journal, how to publish yourself, your paper in green open access. So please consider using this or have a look at another training of ours. So after we know all these introductory things, the very important thing is to decide firstly on the type of publication. As we already said, journal papers are most valued publications. And they should be peer-reviewed to be serious, produced by some serious publisher, by some academic press. They should also cite authors that are expert in their fields, etc., etc. And generally, you should publish original papers and other types of papers if there is need for that, if you're experienced a researcher or something like that. But please beware of so-called predatory journals. Those journals are practically faking in a way that they have high impact factors, but they don't have a real peer review. They charge you some money in exchange for having published in this, but practically a lot of rubbish is published there because there's no real peer review. People do it only to get something to be promoted, for example. But these journals do something citing each other, and they raise impact factors, and those are really not real scientific journals. So if you publish there, you could be banned. For example, you could be this journal can be blacklisted, and your paper is not accepted. So besides journal papers, there are books or monographs. They're a good idea if you want to establish your place in scientific world in your field. And beware. Often you get invited to write chapters in monographs and books with conference papers, for example, to publish some conference paper, but very often it's a waste of your effort because those are not very well reviewed often. So many people don't take it seriously or don't read it. I don't say that it's not an option. Very often it is a good option, but beware and just be careful about this. So there are many journal types, and if you are a young researcher, especially, you should firstly think what journal types are maybe the best options for me. If you are only just starting, maybe the first good option is a regional journal, because it may be easier for you to publish in that journal, and still it could be a very good journal and good starting point. Then consider, secondly, newer journals, for example, 3 to 7 years old, because they are receiving less papers and they can be more ready to work with young researchers on their papers, for example. Then the next option is interdisciplinary journals, because some papers that are not on one or other side can be published there. But the main thing are those two star journals. Field journals should be your main goal because they concentrate on your field, and it's likely they are prestigious, but you have a good chance to publish there if your article is on this topic. And it's the best chance maybe are thematic issues, special issues, because very often in some journals there are guest editors that make a special journal edition only on some specific topic. And because the topic is specific, there are much less papers there sent, and you have a much better chance to publish. And finally, disciplinary journals, there are very wide in options. For example, just mechanical engineering. There are a lot of papers sent there, so you consider it's a good option, but you may be high to start to publish there. But of course, many people say they're rejecting my paper, they are rejecting my paper many times. The first thing is you have to know how to write the article. So please spend some time to learn to write a good article. There are very, very many good sources because many people have the same problem. I recommend these books, this first one and the second one. They are very good, and also you have a lot of free guidelines. Those are only some examples. We don't have time to go into details, but please consult literature. And then when you wrote and you perform your research, and you have some draft of the paper, for example, first name your priorities. Why do you want to publish? So do you want to get promoted based on this? Do you want to improve your reputation, maximize the visibility of your research? Do you want to summarize some research that you are finishing and this is the last thing you will publish? And do you want, for example, to quickly get your ideas published for others to see, because time is important in this branch? So just going back to rejection of the paper. Rejection of the paper happens to everyone. It's not the end of the world, but you lose some time because you may send your paper to many journals, but it's practically something that's very unethical. And if the editors see it, you may be banned, you may be blacklisted because doing that. So you have to wait practically for one journal to reject you or to accept you. Then if you are rejected, go to next one. And it costs some time. And many people think that many papers get rejected because there are generally too many papers sent and not enough journals. It's completely not true because there are very, very many journals now. Every year, thousands of new journals are emerging. So usually, paper gets rejected because you sent to a wrong journal. You practically select the wrong journal and everything then is happening because of that. So, how to search and where to search for journal? We will have following slides with details, but quickly, firstly, you can ask your mentor of colleagues because they have a lot of experience. You can search in some subscription-based list of journal or free lists of academic journal. Also, Professor Tenovic mentioned index and research database. You also you have some specific field databases. Interesting idea to look at your own bibliography and your papers. So where the authors that you cited published their work. It can be a good idea. So also journal publisher website, and especially I will recommend you journal finders. You will see what is a journal finder. So how to conduct the research on the journal for publishing. First, don't select only one journal. Make a list of journals because if you get rejected, you would do your search again. So you make a list. If you get rejected, go to the next one, of course. And also you will have a list for some other paper in the future. After you make a list, evaluate the journal in some way according to topic match, metrics, visibility, etc., etc. We will see this in detail. Make the list and then select a preferred journal. If you make a keyword search, the good idea first to go with a narrow topic that is very specific for your research, then expand the research to general subject, and you will get more journals that didn't appear in the first search. And if you want even more suggestions, then you go to theoretical approach, methodology, or discipline-related keywords, and then sometimes in this third approach, you get the best paper. It happens like that. So when you search for papers in some portals, for example, often they are ranked according to journal ranking, some so-called impact factors. So we don't have time to go in details here, but I left you the slides. The most well-known one, an impact factor and site score, practically reflect the average number of citations to articles published in some journal. Impact factor goes for 2 years. Site score now goes for 4 years back from the year that it goes. But because they are criticized, that they are not objective, there are some new factors. For example, this Simago Journal Rank, SGR, it also takes into account the importance of the journal from which the citation came from. And there is also a very interesting idea about SNP. SNP practically normalizes these factors because in some area it's harder to get cited. It's, for example, easier to get cited in medicine than in engineering, for example. So SNP takes this into account, and practically journals get evaluated in the same normalized way. And there is something called age index. You may know it very well. For example, if you have papers that are cited more than 10 times, you have index 10, age index 10. So also journals have age index. Of course, it can be 100, 500 or something like that, but they have it in the same way. And all of these metrics have been criticized that are not objective, especially not very good for young researchers, because it takes time to get these metrics. You have to research for, there is time needed for people to cite you to raise your factor. And now there is a new idea called altmetrics. It takes into account measures like bookmarks, links, blog post tweets, likes, shares, press coverage of the article. And then many sites now and many journals give you the altmetrics for your paper. So now let's go into details about some types of searches, bases. First, we have subscription-based bibliographic database. There are very good places to search based on keywords. The most important ones are journal citation reports. Also, if you don't have subscription to this, you may search for publication in Scopus and latest if the journals related for this. Also, we have Scopus Journal Analyzer and Ulix Web. They are very good places, but your institution has to be subscribed. If you have it, use it, please. Many people also use Google Scholar because it's very easy to access. But beware when you use it. You can only search for publications, and then there is a problem that you cannot click on journal and see the properties of the journal. Also, Google Scholar does not filter out predatory journals. They are here. And also, if some papers are cited very much, they get on top and they get cited even more. So it's maybe a little bit uneven, and beware. Please use other things besides Google Scholar. What I recommend you also, what is free, for example, this Semantic Scholar gives good recommendation because it's artificially intelligence based. Also, Ingenta can be good. And in special branches of science, for example, in computer engineering you have CiteSeerX, in medicine PubMed, in astronomy and physics, this astrophysics data system, they're also very good. But I told you that, in my opinion, the best options for searching for journals are journal finders. Why? Because they allow you to input your abstract of your paper and the title sometimes of your paper. So based on abstract and title, it searches using also artificial intelligence, keywords and everything. So they give you a list of very interesting suggestions. So maybe the best ones are subscription-based journal finders. I will mention this Manuscript Matcher that is based on Web of Science and also works from EndNote software if you have subscription to use it. And you have this advanced journal selector. I, for example, can use this Manuscript Matcher. This is how it looks like. It has title and abstract, and it can give you very good suggestion for any journal that is listed in Web of Science. If you don't have subscription, you can use the free ones. We will try later this journal guide. It can give you okay suggestions, but I don't take the best ones because it's free, so people are not investing so much in maintaining it. Also, you have, if you want to publish in open access, you can use Open Journal Matcher. And of course, you can use directory of open access journals. And finally, in medicine, you have this Jane that is also a journal finder. And very good are also journal finders by various publishers. So you could combine all this. Start with paid or also with free, but use these ones because they give you very well good suggestions, but only for this publisher. That's of course the problem. Springer gives you for Springer, Elsevier for Elsevier, Wiley for Wiley, but they work very well. So try it on yourself, every link here will lead you to appropriate page. So in the end, when you make a list based on all those searches that I showed you now, then you usually should get some list that is 3 to 10 journals long. That is something that you should expect. So now you should look at every journal, and then you should make the numbered list, which journal is the best, which is maybe the worst option. Many people have invested many effort to make something called evaluation checklist. So, for example, you have this Belcher Journal evaluation form that is part of the very good book on writing the journal articles, and also this free tool called Journal Evaluation Book. I will, for example, now give you typical questions that you have to answer based on Belcher form. You just tick some boxes. You, for example, answer, is the journal peer reviewed? That's the first thing. If it's not peer reviewed, just go to the next journal. Then, does this journal have a solid reputation? If you heard about it, if it's mentioned very much, okay, it has. Does the journal have solid metrics? Now, we are talking what are the metrics. So usually you can find what are the impact factors. So if it does, okay, in the box. Does the journal have a tolerable rejection rate? Very often you can find that, for example, journal accepts 32% of or 35% of articles. That's very good if you find this. So try to find this information and then target such a journal, because with the high journals you have only 5%, for example, acceptation rate. That can be a problem, especially for new researchers. So the next question is, does the journal have a substantial publisher? Because if you don't know publisher, there are many fake publishers. If you see that the site of the publisher is very amateur, you know, something like a childhood zoo, especially, that's not a good publisher. If you heard about this publisher, then consider the journal. Is the journal carefully produced? Also, there are, techniques of making this final PDF is good, it's okay. Do you have to pay the fee? Sometimes that's a crucial question. If you don't have funding, then you cannot pay the fee. Or if you have, that's a good option, go for that. So are the journals authors varied? For example, if you see that this Chinese journal with all Chinese authors, and only some authors that are not Chinese, your chances, if you are not Chinese, are really small. For example, I have this experience, for example, with Korean journal. Then, does the journal publish many articles per year? And if it doesn't, your chances are also small. Is the journal available online? It's, of course, very important for people to see the work. Does it take a long time to get published? Sometimes you wait a lot for peer review, but you wait even longer. When your journal is accepted, your article may wait for a year for the work to get published. So your work may get old. Also, who reads your journal? What's the audience? Is it good for you? Etc. The next set of questions is related to match of your article to the journal. Is this the right journal for your article? So first, does the journal have a relevant theme or special issue? If it has, we said already, it's best option. But if it has many, many special issues, then people may just avoid it, because it's bad practice to have very, very many special issues. So does the journal publish articles on topics like mine? When you find some journal, then go and look at typical papers in a few issues of this journal. If there are articles that are very similar to yours, then it's a very good journal for you. So does the journal have article length limits that you can meet? Maybe your article is too long for that journal. Do you know any of the journal's editors? It's not because some connection, but because if you know the editor, you know what he likes, what he does, what his scientific orientation, and does the style of your article match the journal style? Also, read some articles. You will see in journal finders, you typically, the first journal that some journal finder gives you as an option has many articles that are similar to your abstract and title. Also, a similar option to a journal finder is are the sites with journal checking guidelines. This is a very well done one called Think Check Submit. It's done by Directory of Open Access Journal and some libraries and association of libraries. The idea is the same as with journal finder. For you to check if the journal is right for your paper. So you have in this site, for each of those questions, you have 5 or 6 sub-questions. I didn't have place for this here. So do your colleagues know the journal? Can you easily identify, contact the publisher? So very, very similar questions like in journal finders. Also, you have the other 2 that I recommend. And for example, if you have the list of 10 journals, should you go for the high impact ones with high impact factors? Should you go to low impact factor ones, or maybe something in between? So many people say, okay, I want to go to high impact ones, or even some mentors recommend this, but it's not always a good idea because there is a high rejection rate in the journals, and there is no proof that you will be better cited or your work will be better reviewed in high impact journals. Often it's not the truth. So maybe the best option is to go on middle rank journals, especially for young researchers. And don't be shy. Don't go to low end journals, or because sometimes it's not a good option, so you only waste your resources. And after all this research, finally, when you select the paper, you will have to adjust the paper to the journal you select. Of course, you have to write it in the style that's appropriate for the journal. Then submit to this journal. That's, for example, the first journal from your list. And if you get rejected, nothing. You just go to the next journal from your list, and next maybe, and finally, and hopefully you will get published. So now we have some time for a short exercise. For this really exercise would last very long, but now just the idea is for you to see how it works. I will show you just how this journal guide looks because it's free. And I will just take a moment to share this. Can you see now the journal guide screen? Okay. I hope you see it. So here I have one of my papers ready here. I will copy the title. I will copy the abstract, and I will click on search. And you see, I get the list of proposals for the journal where I can publish this paper of mine. You see how it works. If there are 4 similar articles, for example, that's the most that the journal finder has found that are similar to my abstract, that's the first ranked journal. Then goes this with 3 matches, 2 matches, etc., etc. It also gives you impact factor, and when you go over this, you see that this impact factor is SNP. We said that this SNP, it is the same for many branches. It normalizes these impact factors. So when you click on a journal, for this, for example, this one, you can see additional data. First, what are the aims and scope of the journal? What is typical time from submission to first decision? Are you accepted or rejected, for example? So time to immediate reject is also very important. If they say it's not for our journal, sometimes in 2 days you get this decision. And as you see, there is not much data maybe on this journal because it's a free estimator, but you also can get the estimation of the cost of publishing an article and some other data. for example, bibliographic data or impact factor. And of course, you can click to the journal's website and see the rest of the details. And now we have this 5 minutes time just for you to please try. You just type here journal guide in search and you will get to the site journalguide.com and try to copy and paste your manuscript title and your manuscript abstract and search for good proposition of the journal per article. Please just write in chat. Do you think that you have good proposals for your article? Did you find in first 10 or 20 journals something that looks okay? Because if you cannot know this for 5 minutes, you have to search a little bit more. You have to answer 10 or 20 questions, but then you can make a list. Okay, so I know you may be tired because it's the 4th hour finishing of our work. My recommendation is, if you want to learn to find an appropriate journal, just go through this presentation in more detail and use these resources that are given to you here.
Thank you very much to everyone, to our trainers that joined us today and provided us with so interesting and useful presentation and training, and also to all of the participants that managed independently of the different time zones all over the world to join us today and to listen to this presentation and to make the exercises. And by this, I would like to say goodbye to everyone. We will be able very soon to provide you with the link to the video record and also to all of the presentations of your trainers today. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Svetlana.
Thank you.
And
Svetlana.
special thanks to Dragan that joins us although with COVID.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Goodbye for all. Have a good day and or night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.